CyberHub Engage podcast is sponsored by CyberHub Summit, hosting its second annual Cybersecurity Summit in Atlanta, Georgia on October 10th, 2018, featuring a live tabletop exercise with audience participation, global speakers, engaging topics. Experience cyber different at www.cyberhubsummit.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the CyberHub Engage podcast. My name is James Azar and we have a special episode for you guys today. But before we talk about our episode, I want to tell you that we are available online on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at CyberHub Engage. So follow us. You can listen to episodes, hear some of our shorts, and really connect with what we're doing. Give us some feedback. We love to hear from you, and we've been loving the recent feedback that we've gotten from some of our fans. So I just want to say thanks for listening. And today we have a special episode because I have someone who stood me up twice finally here. Now we had his CISO, and if you listen, we had the CISO David Black here a while ago, and he was from SiteOne Landscaping. And today we've got the CIO in the house, Sean Kramer. So Sean, say hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Took us about, 3 times to get you in here. And you stood me up like twice. Yeah. Not as forgiving.
I apologize.
Sean is actually, and one of the reasons we have Sean here is because the SiteOne story is very, very interesting. And from some of the feedback we got from David's podcast, I know that you guys really did like that one episode because, we talk about a blue collar company going tech, a company that really sells dirt and trees, all of a sudden becoming very, very information driven.
Yep.
As an organization.
And lighting and hardscapes and anything you need in the landscape industry.
So you heard that here, and I was told by David to ask you for a discount for the times that you stood me up. So we all got home landscaping projects we're trying to get done.
Yeah, you got it.
The story of SiteOne Landscape is interesting, but the story you kind of started, and I kind of want to talk about you for a second because you're nominated for one of the top CIOs in the city of Atlanta by the Atlanta Business Chronicle. That is not something that you pay to participate in. That is something that you're nominated by your peers. Mm-hmm. It's a very big deal because I like to call them, there's a lot of awards out there where people are nominated and finalists for something that really the company pays for recognition, or it's kind of a sponsored. This list is not one of those. This list is you're nominated by a group of your peers. You're in the top 5 finalists in the entire Georgia Atlanta ecosystem, which is a lot of companies. Yeah. So congratulations.
Thank you.
How'd you get on that list?
I have no idea. I mean, it's just an honor, obviously, to be with that group that's also nominated. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a special community, not only in Atlanta, but just the state of Georgia. I relocated down here, and I've been involved in this community now for 2 years, and the amount of networking, the amount of information sharing to help build up each other is really admirable. And so I'm proud to be a part of that group.
Yeah, it's when's the dinner? When do you know if you won?
The event is actually a breakfast, and it's October 26th, I believe, a Friday morning at the Cobb Galleria.
It's a breakfast?
Mm-hmm. 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
They really don't like you guys. I've never understood. Where'd you move here from?
Metro Detroit, Michigan.
I lived in Grand Rapids for a year.
There you go.
I hated Michigan winters.
Yeah, if you don't grow up there, you're not used to it.
No, you don't. You can't get used to it. It's just it's cold.
Yeah.
And it's snowy. And I mean, I grew up in Colorado, but Colorado would get snow in the morning. By dinner time, it's all gone, and you're outside playing football.
Yeah. No, in Michigan, you get snow in the morning, and it's gone by April.
Yeah. It pretty much like stacks up. I remember I lived in Grand Rapids, and right in January, like the height of a storm, I still have this picture. I got to Grand Rapids, to Gerald R. Ford International Airport in Grand Rapids, got on a flight to go to Dubai. I'm taking a picture. I'm wearing a coat, a sweater, an undershirt, right? Like a button-up shirt under the sweater, a t-shirt under that because it was cold.
Yeah.
I get to Dubai. I'm stripping down to my t-shirt because it was so hot.
Yeah.
Like 17 hours later, I was like, oh my God, what is this? Right? You're like, oh, I packed wrong because I had a coat with me and I went to Dubai in Australia for like 3 months. I didn't come back till end of March, which was great. I missed most of the Michigan winter.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. No, it can be brutal, but you know, you learn to have fun in the snow. So skiing and sledding and ice skating, stuff like that. So you either have to adapt or you got to move out.
So do you enjoy the inch snow that we get here in Georgia that shuts down schools, stops people from getting to work?
Yeah, I mean the reaction to it's a little over the top, but you know, I'm used to it, so I'm not going crazy as soon as snow or ice hits the ground. But you know, my kids enjoy the extra time off, so it's a plus for them. I try to. They still remember how to shovel a driveway too, so they help.
So you put them to work.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
like, shovel the driveway and shovel this neighbor's driveway because he's not gonna know how to shovel his snow.
They're all about making money. Yeah.
Shovel that guy's driveway. I was shoveling snow this year when we had that big storm, kind of in December, and I remember getting out to the driveway and I had, you know, my shovel, and all my neighbors were looking at me like, "You're not gonna wait for it to melt?" I'm like, it's gonna become ice. Have you not seen the forecast? You know, and I'm out there in like shorts and a t-shirt shoveling, and they're like, "Aren't you cold?" Nope. No. It's 40 degrees, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that cold.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't last very long down here when it happens either.
No,
So,
but it's funny. The
deal.
reaction's hilarious. Like you go to Whole Foods, it's like, you know, the purge is happening that night.
Yeah, the milk
Like
and the bread and the cheese.
Yeah, people are like
the,
fighting.
Yeah.
And people are fighting. They're like, "That's the last 12 pack of water. That's my water."
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Guys, it's snow.
Yeah. There's a weatherman that was advising the folks to wear socks over their shoes if they went out into their driveway so they wouldn't slip, fall, and break their neck. So I had to rewind that, record it, and send it to my family members in Michigan. They got to laugh.
So tell us a bit about your background. I mean, you're obviously the CIO of Landscape Supply, SiteOne Landscape Supply, but how'd you get there? I mean, what was your career path?
I started off working in automotive. Early on in my career, I joined, it was Daimler Chrysler at the time. Now it's FCA, but worked at Chrysler in Auburn Hills. Worked there for about 8 years in various positions in the technology area. Spent some time in the plants. Worked out of headquarters. And then I jumped over actually to Volkswagen in the Metro Detroit area. The building's almost right across the street. So worked there for 6 years, a little bit more international exposure, traveling over to Germany, traveling quite a bit to Mexico, collaborating globally, which was a great experience, learning what Volkswagen is such a huge company, multiple brands. I mean, they're kind of the equivalent of General Motors, but the brands don't cannibalize each other as much as sometimes the domestics do. I mean, when you think about the brands they have, Bugatti, Porsche, Audi, even Ducati motorcycles. So, and then they have brands that are just in Europe like Skoda. But so that was a great experience, a lot of collaboration, and that's where you know, kind of my passion for the ability to seek out other opinions on how they solve common problems came from, because there was a lot of collaboration across borders. But then the role with, actually at the time, we were John Deere Landscapes that came about. And, you know, it was originally based in Troy, Michigan. When I was interviewing for the role, the headquarters was down here in Alpharetta. But there was more folks that worked out of the Troy office than they actually had in the headquarters, and all of IT was based in Troy. So at the time, I mean, the story and the path that we had chartered for ourselves was, you know, John Deere Landscapes was just the majority ownership was acquired by a private equity firm. They're planning on investing in the business. They're planning on investing in technology. They're planning on going through a rapid growth spurt through organic and acquisitions. And they were looking for a seasoned IT leader to kind of bring some, more or less to formalize the system, bring some organization and some innovation around to it. So that's how I ended up at the time at John Deere Landscapes.
And then John Deere became SiteOne, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. So with the divestiture from John Deere, we had to rebrand the company. So got to go through that process, which was a great learning experience for me. So the list of names we considered, the taglines, the colors, the different opinions. But, we got it right in the end.
I wonder how many consultants were brought in for that piece.
There was quite a few, but, it was an awkward experience because I don't think that's something that a lot of folks go through,
right.
Especially internally at the company. So we relied on some help from the outside, and I felt as though they did a very good job. And we even solicited feedback throughout the company, looking for ideas from the associates. That's kind of the culture that we have. We want it built on by the folks that work for the company, right? And I think we narrowed it down to a select few, and the consensus was SiteOne Landscape Supply, and I think it's liked by everyone in the company. And there were some attributes from Deere that we wanted to keep. There's a lot.
The color is very similar to the.
Well, John Deere. It's an iconic brand. It aligns. It goes back quite a few years, but in terms of doing business, they always do business with a high level of integrity. Their folks are viewed as having a high level of like a strong work ethic. So that was something that we ensured that we wanted to translate over to SiteOne when we rebranded, and I think we have. Very customer service oriented business, and it's gone well thus far.
You guys are, and I kind of asked David this on the podcast, but David kind of gave the information security point, and today's episode's kind of to get the CIO view, because most CIOs manage CISOs, and relationships vary, but you have a very good relationship with David. When you and I had our first conversation, you were like, "Are you sure you don't want David on this one? Are you sure?" Well, we were glad to have David. He didn't stand me up twice, right? But talk about that transformation from going from a blue collar, dirt tree landscaping company, lighting, you name it, to becoming IT centric, essentially going through having to, either build new infrastructure or, kind of rebuild infrastructure per se.
Yeah. So when we were a part of John Deere, we fell under the corporate security program, but we were a subsidiary. So it was time to kind of put a re-emphasis on that focus. And then we knew we were going to transform into a publicly traded company as well. So it was vital that we got a seasoned IT security leader in place. So our interview process is fairly rigorous when we bring talent in, and David's interview process followed suit. So he had to interview with quite a few folks. In the end, I think we knew very early that he was the guy to bring in. Based on his experience, based on him being so pragmatic in terms of, it's very easy for a IT security leader to come in and throw, regulations and throw
policy.
Process at the problem. And David really looked at it and threw what was, necessary. So we did go heavy process where it needed to be, and but also we had to invest in technology, which we did. The amount of security technology that we've brought in over the past few years, there hasn't been a department within IT that's grown more than the security team, but also from a process standpoint. So really starting from scratch from our IT security program, David worked very hard in terms of building training and processes that translated with our field. Because our fields focus on servicing the landscape contractor. And, ensuring that they kind of, stay vigilant to threats from a technology standpoint. We've had folks that call our branches, acting as if they're someone that they're not. So ensuring that we can get the education through in an effective way, David's done very good. And our field has been very supportive at the same time too. I mean, they provide feedback. The lines of communication is wide open when they see something that isn't exactly right, and so they have a very high level of engagement with David and his team.
You kind of made the case for the CISO. I mean, the company obviously was going through a growth spurt. You guys were about to go public, and realizing all those things, you kind of went to bat and said, hey guys, we need a CISO. And you just talked about the process, but let's kind of step back for a second and talk about that moment where when you went and you made the case for the CISO, talking to your executives, to Doug Black, who's his chief executive officer, not related to David, and we've kind of figured that out from the last episode.
Yeah,
they're not related.
No. That's a running joke, but yeah, they're not related.
When he came here, I was like, so did you get the job because, you're like Doug's cousin or something? I mean, how'd that work?
Yeah.
And he goes, no, we're not related.
Yeah. Well, and so, I had to make the case to my direct manager. So that's Ross Anker, EVP of Marketing Category Management, and he has responsibility for my department as well, and the CFO and the CEO. We knew the path that we wanted to take, and obviously cybersecurity is a prominent topic. So my team has grown quite a bit, but David was the first new leader that we hired. Expanding out our business as quickly as we were there, that we would be vulnerable in the event that we would be attacked or have a couple threats come our way. So we really needed that emphasis and that focus in that area first and foremost before anything else. I had quite a few discussions with the leadership team at SiteOne and about it. And it really wasn't as much about selling the role as it was about, what are going to be the priorities of the role when he comes in. And it was laying out the first, not only the first 90 days, the first year, the first 3 years, the first 5 years. And the role has continued to evolve, as the threats continue to evolve. Right. So, and now, cybersecurity is a main topic, not just within IT, but in the field and within the other business functions and with the leadership team of the company.
It's very great to hear a CIO kind of talk about the importance of cybersecurity, because most of the time they're so focused on, I've got so much on my mind, I've got so many things to deal with, and you obviously have a whole plate of of things to deal with, and your time's very, it has to be very focused. How much time would you say, a week or a month, do you spend with David on the cybersecurity aspect of the business?
Quite a bit. It would be hard to put a number to it or a percentage, but quite a bit. I mean, his office is right next to mine. So while we reserve some time during the week to have, engaged one-on-one, we're going back and forth, yelling over to each other's office quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, it's, and with David, and I think this is more the individual than the role, he gets very involved with the customer transaction experience at the branch, whether it's the new, we have to deploy a credit card system to support the chip. Very heavily involved working directly with the developers in that regard, working directly with the developers around their coding practices and ensuring that they're continuing to evolve to make sure that they can combat threats. Working with all of the various, whether it's finance or legal or the internal audit department. He is very good with switching hats to work with the different teams. But a large percentage of my time is on security if we didn't have someone like him in place, a larger amount of my time. And that's why it was important to get someone that's done this for years, but and takes a pragmatic approach to solving the problems that we have out there today, because there's not a whole lot of micromanagement I do of David, and I trust him as I trust all of my leaders, but he's proven in the last few years, with our fast-paced environment, that he's got his arms wrapped around, our security practice, and he's always staying on his toes, continuing to develop his team to make sure that they evolve, to make sure that we're combating any new threats that come out.
You guys have made over 30 acquisitions in the last 4 years, which is kind of unheard of. That's something I think very few companies can stick on their sheet and get it, and do so successfully. But you guys have done a really good job with it. But, you and I, when we were talking earlier, we talked about kind of the due diligence that goes through in a process like that, whether it be acquiring, a small one-store kind of landscaping shop, or whether it be acquiring a chain across Texas that, has, 15 or 25 locations. In your role as CIO, what were some of the challenges you would encounter, and how would you guys solve those, including from the CIO side to the CISO side? I mean, what kind of cooperation was required to really make that successful?
Significant cooperation. So we try to get involved into the process very, very early. I think we did our first acquisition within my first 2 months of joining the company. So learned quickly. The companies that we work with, there's a varying degree of technology and data that they have. It runs the gamut. So learning what they have and how their business process works outside from the technology side, but just how their business process works, and then leveraging the software that they do, the business analytics software that they may have. We get into it pretty deep. Early on, it was a shared responsibility, and over time, as our department evolved, we segment out a piece of my team that has folks that are fully dedicated to acquisitions now. So they'll go out there and they'll do their due diligence. They'll work with the on-site staff. They handle the networking. They handle the data integration. But what's most important, obviously, is upon integration that the sales associates in the branch of the acquired company are comfortable with our systems, comfortable with our processes. They understand our processes. So it's seamless. And if it's not going to be seamless, then we wait until to execute the integration until it is seamless and they are 100% comfortable with moving forward.
It's fascinating when you hear like over 30 acquisitions in 4 years and the amount of people that's required to make that happen. And as you just said, seamless. I mean, a lot of times you can be like, hey, this is going to take 6 months. Eventually it can take a little bit longer. Because at the end of the day, it's like the SiteOne to me was very interesting as a company because it's really the basics of basics. It's landscaping. It's the challenge of it's a simple business. It's by all means
doesn't
and
feel
concerns,
like it,
right? Well, when you look at it from the outside, right, you go, well, what do those guys do, right? They sell dirt and trees and landscaping supplies to landscapers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you still, consumers can still walk into your lot and buy your product, but that's not really who your target market is. It's
I mean, and some of the complexities of the business could just be, we in terms of like unit of measure, right? So if a landscape contractor wants to buy pavers, he can buy an individual paver, he can buy 5, he can buy a pallet, he could buy a couple layers on a pallet, or maybe on the West Coast, they measure it by square foot versus a pallet on the East Coast. So there's complexity. And, when you think of the nursery side of the business, you got products that are in different stages of its life cycle. So those are products that live and die, right? So you could have a bush or a tree that's 3 months old versus 6 months, and they have a different look and feel to it. So the complexity of the business is there. I mean,
no, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
It's, when someone looks at a company like SiteOne Landscape with not even just recognizing for a minute, they would never think it has a CIO and a CISO.
Mm-hmm.
They would look at a company and be like, they probably got a VP, IT that deals with IT issues, right? And they've probably got a PCI compliance person. And that's about it, because what else would they need? But you guys have a full-on dedicated, not only information security, but an IT staff to really kind of enhance the business and kind of set yourself apart from everyone else. And you run that whole that whole department. I mean, that's impressive all of within itself. But, the question I want to get to is really, as you kind of think of the complexities that you just stated, whether it be from the nursery side or, the measuring side of it.
Yeah.
How do you integrate that in IT? I mean, you can't have a West Coast and East Coast IT team, could you?
No. I mean, we do have folks out on the West Coast, primarily focused on hours of operation,
Right.
following the sun, and some on-site visits. Actually, when we've acquired companies and they've had IT staff, we keep them on board. So that's kind of why we have a sporadic. We have folks in Connecticut. We have folks in California. That's why we have a team, and then obviously in Michigan and here. But so it is system-based. There are some unique configurations that we do make and we maintain for our business. And we have to. I mean, we have a flexible system. We have a flexible point of sale that we've developed, and that it accommodates those different ways of doing business. Because in the end of the day, us as a company, our success is enablement of the customer, ensuring that the landscape contractor has the most efficient experience, can get any of the products that he needs at our branches. So sometimes that warrants some, custom configuration based on equating to the speed of a transaction, and we handle it that way.
You kind of spoke about your upper management when you guys decided to hire David to bring on as a CISO.
Yep.
As a CIO, you're obviously responsible to report to the board. How involved is your board in information security in the company?
They receive updates on information security in every board meeting. So it's a prominent topic of discussion that we bring forward, and the board is interested in hearing about it as well. So yeah, I mean, they oftentimes want to know what type of threats that we're seeing out there, how are we combating them, and what's our strategy to continue to mature as time goes on. So it's a prominent topic.
So they're very hands-on as a board.
They want to know what our strategy is and how we're continuing to evolve from an IT security standpoint.
That's fascinating again, because you think of SiteOne Landscape, you don't think that the board would be more focused on kind of the products and the services rather than just information security.
Our board is well rounded, and we have folks that have a history of working on information technology on the board. So and let's be honest, I mean, it's not necessarily just an IT topic anymore, right?
No,
I mean,
it's
information security, cyber threats, it's a prominent topic that really any of our functional leaders, whether it's in sales, marketing, or HR, they're all aware. They all know that it's a significant threat that we need to make sure that we have a mature practice around.
What's the highlight moment in your career as a CIO?
To be honest, the time at SiteOne's been the highlight moment, right? It's still going on.
Right.
So it's been very, very, it's been a pleasant experience working there, because when I joined, everything that was laid out for the most part, we've progressed on and we achieved. So, I mean, by no means, like, we're still starting out as a company. We have a lot to do, and we still need to execute upon our strategy. But I'm kind of I'm in the middle of it right now, and it's fun. And I'm fortunate with David. his team, other folks that report to me. I'm very fortunate with the team that we've built in IT at SiteOne, because we have a lot of committed individuals. I talked about integrity, work ethic, and they exude that every day. So I'm very fortunate to work with a group that's committed to the team's success, and all of the business functional areas we work with. It's a very collaborative environment. And so it makes it easier to execute some of these difficult projects that we've had on our plate.
You were telling me earlier you guys do site visits often. Do you notice a different, obviously site people who are in the retail end of it, or even the B2B side of it, security I think ranks number 75 on their list of things to pay attention to. How'd you guys kind of get that front and center for them? Do you see that they're more aware of different security threats and are reporting them more often, or are they still kind of like a weak link?
No, I've been very impressed with how the field has been responsive to our security program and the training we push through. So the site visits, all my direct reports are required to go on site a certain number of times every year, and come back with lessons learned and kind of report out to the team, because we're a services organization. We got to service the field, and we got to strive for excellence in that regard. The field and our branch associates have responded very well. I mean, we do campaigns around phishing and things like that, and they respond with training. There's, with such a broad audience, there's a varying degree of folks that some gravitated towards it early on. Some work in IT and security outside of their regular business of working at SiteOne. They do it more of a hobby. So, but they've responded well in terms of the training, in terms of if they have questions. That's what keeps David Black busy in large part, is the contacts directly to the field. And that's the type of relationship we have. If they want to reach out, they don't reach out, to someone on the application side. They go right to David if they have any questions, if they have any suspected threats. And David and his team often communicates issues that may or may not be related to SiteOne specific technology. Like, he sent out a communication when there was a threat with a previous iOS version. And he sent it out and said, all the iPhone users, whether it's a SiteOne iPhone or not, you want to patch this version of the iOS. You want to do it within the next 48 hours because this is the threat that just surfaced. So, that's the type of relationship that we have. And when you build that type of trust, like we have with the field, they're very quick, even if they suspect something, and it may not be anything, but even if they suspect it, oftentimes they reach out and let us know and make us aware, and we have that dialogue. We'll drop everything if we think it could be a significant threat that's going on at one of our branches.
That's so important, because so many times you see that be the weak point in an organization is typically the field agents don't get the same amount of attention as the guys who are, in the 9-to-5 office job. But the 9-to-5 is only liable to a specific amount of threat, but the guys on the outside are, more liable and more, they encounter greater threats than, Home Depot is a prime example of that. Unfortunately, during one of their breaches, it was through their retail branches that happened. And you've seen other cases of Target and others who, have been, breached through their retail employees, through their retail channel. And that's a way in for a hacker. And it's an easy way in, because you go to a place that's busy, that people are, busy working, servicing customers. That's when mistakes are most likely to happen. In information security, we say the summer for hackers is planting the seeds to attack in the fourth quarter, right? Because the fourth quarter is the time to attack. Everyone is so busy on that, Christmas time. And I know you guys are a little different. Your business is spring, summer, not the fourth quarter. You guys probably experience it more in the spring and summer. But when you look at the majority of hackers and, you kind of go sit on the dark web a little bit, read some of their forums, and and spend time there, you realize a lot of them are chatting. They're like, all right, June, July, August, it's time to build up and get ready, because come October, we're going to start hitting these places, October, November, December, because that's when people are more likely to really fall into fraud. Also, there's an uptick in credit card activity. There's an uptick in so many different things. So it makes life harder for banks, for companies, and for consumers to keep track of things that go on. And for you guys, that's the complete opposite. And so it's still fascinating to see, what you just said about your field staff, because, most of the time when things get busy, that's when bad stuff happens.
Yeah, and we recognize, the success of protecting this company is at the branch level, right? So that's been the emphasis since we started the security program, is that we need to make sure that our staff's getting the proper education, the proper training. Sure, we need to get the technologies in place, and we've been very strategic with some of the partners that we've selected, and we have quite a few of them. But we knew early on that we needed to start building out the program for the field, and we couldn't just prime and shoot out the fire hose and give them a bunch of security policies that may be difficult to understand within a 4-week period. We knew that it was going to be a journey, and that's the approach we've taken. So and they've been great. They've been very responsive to it.
Final question, kind of a different one though.
Okay.
What elements do you think are important to succeed in a CIO role?
I think collaboration with business partners that are responsible for the field, business partners that are responsible for pricing, supply chain. I think that the CFO, I think that is the key to being a success when it comes to a CIO. Folks that depend on your services and your systems and your security policies for auditing practices or for just protecting the business. I think building those big relationships, those strong relationships is key, and ensuring that, when you develop a strategy, you're involving those folks. When you're coming up with your technology strategy, it's your peers in the functional areas outside of IT that have a stake in the game in terms of how that was defined. And so it's kind of a joint strategy, not just an information technology one.
We kind of spoke of regulation real fast here. And so how much does compliance and security regulations kind of play an impact now with the California Privacy Act that's about to go through? How much of that is a drain on a company the size of SiteOne?
Well, it's something that we have to prepare for and we have to execute for. We went from a private to a public company, so obviously there's some compliance requirements there. We're a sales-based business, so obviously there's some compliance around PCI that we have to adhere to. So that, in quite honestly, from a security standpoint, I would say that's what's changed the most in the last few years for our business specifically. When we stood it up, we were more focused on policies and technology, and now it's more around not forgetting those, but it's more around how are we going to continue to evolve from a compliance standpoint to ensure that, because a lot of those measurements continue to modify as well. So you have to kind of work in concert with each one of those compliance requirements to make sure that our business is covered.
Right. Compliance has become a burden for a lot of companies.
We look at it, it's just the way of doing business.
Right.
And we have to adapt. We've done a good job of becoming the chameleon within our department or within our company. So we started off with 22 folks. We have a much bigger team now. I had 2 direct reports originally, and now I have 9. So we've adapted and we've continued to evolve. And a lot of the new folks that I've brought in, whether it's on the application side or the technology side, all of which have security goals and objectives that they have to achieve every year. Some of it related to compliance, others may not be, but you always have to stay on your toes, right? And so I think it's ingrained within my team and at all levels. And I definitely think it's a priority of the business as well.
Perfect. Well, Sean, I want to say thanks for being with us today. I could keep this conversation going because I have like 50 other questions I want to ask you, but we'll have to do it again when you stand me up twice again, and then the third time will be the charm. But I want to say thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Good luck on the CIO finalist.
Thank you.
Are voting for you and kind of sending out positive energy that you win it, and that way October 26th you can send us a picture of the award, and we can post it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Sean, thanks for being here. You're listening to the CyberHub Engage podcast. We're going to be right back after this message. The CyberHub Engage podcast is sponsored by CyberHub Summit, hosting its second annual Cybersecurity Summit in Atlanta, Georgia on October 10th, 2018, featuring a live tabletop exercise with audience participation, global speakers, engaging topics. Experience cyber different at www.cyberhubsummit.com.